Poised for Exit is a show for business owners who want to achieve a successful exit based on their own terms. Your business exit will likely be the biggest financial transaction of your life, and for most, you'll have one shot at doing it right. The topics and guests we feature and the stories they share will provide valuable ideas and strategies to improve operations and grow enterprise value so you can achieve the best possible exit outcome. Now here's your host, award-winning certified exit planning advisor, Julie Keys.
Welcome everyone to Poised for Exit, the exit planning podcast show. Our guest today is a female founder of a firm that organizes and facilitates executive peer groups. We're going to talk about the power of peer groups, especially in a pre-exit situation. So stay with us.
Are you a business owner getting ready to transition? If so, I recommend True North Mergers and Acquisitions as your confidential strategic partner. They understand your business sale isn't just about one buyer and the price, but what you net that counts. In other words, what you get to keep. When you're ready for a higher level of representation that delivers consistent results, contact True North M&A to do the heavy lifting of selling your business. Learn more at tnma.com. That's tnma.com.
Selling your business may be the furthest thing from your mind, but that doesn't mean you should wait to plan. At TrustPoint, we understand the nuances that come with selling a business and are here to guide you. From unlocking tax efficiencies to minimizing risk, we'll develop the strategies to ensure you're prepared. So, when the time arrives, you'll be ready to enjoy the best years of your life. Learn more at TrustPointInc.com. That's TrustPointinc.com.
For business owners, it can be overwhelming to start planning a transition or exit strategy, but it's so important to avoid unwanted outcomes and unexpected tax bills. The CPAs at JAK, John A. Knutson & Company, can guide you and help make sense of the numbers. Our firm was established over 90 years ago, and we've assisted countless companies with ownership transitions. Leaving your business is a process that takes time. So contact us today to discuss your situation. Visit our website at jakcpa.com. That's jakcpa.com.
My name is Todd Crow, and I'm the president of the Twin Cities Exit Planning Chapter. If you're a business owner and advisor and want to learn more about the world of exit planning, you're invited to visit the Twin Cities chapter of the Exit Planning Institute. You can expect top-level education delivered by subject matter experts at every monthly meeting. Grow your network and draw from the learning that could be a game changer for your business or your practice. There's no pressure to become a member, so come and see what the buzz is all about. Our meetings are held the second Wednesday of the month, 7:30 to 9 a.m. See the show notes for more information and registration links.
Hello, Poised for Exit listeners. Our guest today is Tina Corner Stolz, who is the founder of LXCouncil and an author of a book called Your Seat at the Table, How to Create and Run Successful Peer Advisory Groups. She's also a podcast host and a mastermind of roundtable discussions with entrepreneurs and executives. So for a subject matter expert to be in the studio right now to talk about this topic, I'm just feeling truly blessed. So thank you for taking the time to be with us here today, Tina.
Oh, absolutely. And, back at you about being an expert in your field.
Two powerhouse women. What can we do, right? Just have a good time with it. Have a good time with
Exactly.
it. Well, I like to start the shows that, with my guests just to kind of talk a little bit about your background. Like, how did you get here? Because most people are not only leaders of peer groups, but also organizers of firms that actually organize peer groups for executives and professionals. And that's what you've been doing. So I'm sure that was no easy task, and it probably wasn't a straight line to get there.
It was not.
Right.
Do any of us have a straight line? That would be so nice if we
Wouldn't it?
Could be. So you're right. It was a mistake that I got into this industry. And I know. So the short story is my background was in corporate world. So corporate telecom, primarily sales, running North America operations, 1.2 billion revenue, like 1,300 people. But they decided to exit the U.S. and I didn't want to exit with them to a foreign country. And so I ended up doing a startup. We raised money, venture capital, and 9/11 happened. And that kind of threw out the idea of any IPO happening anytime soon. So we sold that business. And that was the corporate world, and I was kind of burned out there. They're raising money. I didn't want to do that again. I'm like, "Why- I want something in between." And I was living in the Baltimore, Washington area. I was living in Annapolis, and I was going into DC for a meeting, and you have to leave early. Didn't know what traffic was going to be like. And I was there early, and there was a franchise expo going on. I thought, "I'll pull in here." And I had 30 minutes. And so I was looking at business oriented franchises just to kind of pass the time. And I was barreling out down the aisle, and a franchise literally roped me in and said, "Well, wait a minute." And it was another female. And I thought I will give her some time of day. And the next thing I knew, I became a franchisee of the alternative board.
Oh, really?
And
Okay.
yes. And so the alternative board is,
Yeah.
in this space, and this was back in 2005. And I launched in 2005, and I was their most successful launch, their fastest launch, and had great success. But all of that comes from the fact of, in my whole life, everything's been about partnerships and working with small business. And I took their model and put my model kind of on top of it. And because I've always been that person who says you always got to have a plan B, because, plan A may not actually happen like you think it is. And the plan B was like strategic partnerships. So fast forward, I built my territory, because you have a territory, to be one of their largest franchisees globally. And I was working my tail off, and I was seeing a lot of failure around not just my peers, but also with other organizations who are doing peer groups, like very hard to launch, failure to launch.
Yeah.
They might get a group kind of up and running, but not really making the money they want to make. It was a struggle retaining members. I can kind of go down the list, and I'm like, I'm feeling this. I had 10 groups over 100 members, and I wasn't making the money I thought, and I was getting burned out. So as a result, I'm like, there has to be a better way. So I sold, and then I started LXCouncil, a completely different model to help those out there who really want to do this work, because it's not for everybody. And to be sure that they could do it. They could do it in their way with their brand, make the money, not be burned out, and actually be able to launch groups. And so that's what we do at LXCouncil, with some proprietary differences that make that happen. That's how it happened.
Yeah. Interesting. So you're working with all different kinds of peer group members, right? Like you have advisor member groups and entrepreneur groups. Like, do you split them up, or how do you do that?
Yeah. So we both have our in-house, what I call in-house groups. And then also my clients are also licensing partners, is what I call them. And they do all kinds of different groups as well. So my model allows people to be very niche. So sometimes they might work with women only entrepreneurs, sometimes manufacturing only groups. It could be next gen. It could be virtual. They could be a hybrid. They could be in person. It's all over the place. And it allows anyone who's running groups to do a group based on their expertise and passion, right? That's really where this industry is going. It's to be more and more niche, because of the value that you get out of being more with your, left with your people, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, I think too, if you're a subject matter expert on something, that's really why you want to spend your time. And the people that, you're trying to gather to follow you are going to want to listen to someone who really has that expertise. So that makes total sense to me. Everybody wins then, right?
They do. And the members want to be around people that are going to be able to really understand their world and as well. And that elevates their experience. Now, there's a whole argument about diversity and how you need to have diversity in the group. And I'm not saying that you don't. I'm just saying there's a way to have diversity and commonality to elevate, right?
Of course. So how does I'm sure that you've got all kinds of examples that you can share, but how does a peer group actually help a business owner add value to their enterprise while they're still running it, and even as they're preparing for an exit.
Hmm. And I appreciate you asking that question, particularly because of what you do and how important it is. So this reminds me of back in, like say 20 years ago, of the thing that you would be talking about with business owners is, do you do a strategic plan? And how well do you do a strategic plan? And so many of them weren't even doing a strategic plan, right?
Oh, I
And
know. They're still not. Yeah.
they're still not doing it. And it's different today because it's rare you're doing like this big 5-year strategic plan and things change so quickly. Well, the theme now is what's your exit? What's your transition and what is your exit? And one of the biggest values to the group and what we concentrate and teach everybody on to do when they're running their groups is education. So first of all, there's awareness, there's education about it, and there's also a sense of urgency, and I'll kind of get to that too. So how does that all roll in? And you have, first of all, most business owners are not thinking about it early enough, as you know, right?
Right.
And not only are they not thinking about their business, which is obviously their largest asset usually, and they're not protecting it. They're leaving value on the table. They need to work with someone like you. I mean, I think you talk about it in your book. Also, there's another issue about transition. Like, what are you going to do in your life 2.0, right?
Mhm.
Afterwards. And so we take it as it's our responsibility in running a peer group to bring this topic up in a methodical, intentional way so that owners understand the importance of it. So it starts with them talking about it when they do what we call their perspective report every year. So they do a deep dive on their business and they have to answer their plan for exit and or transition. What does that look like? And what are they thinking about doing afterwards? Even if it's 5-10 years from now, it doesn't matter. Just
Sure. Yeah.
and having them get educated. So being sure that they start that conversation with someone who has that expertise. Okay. And so that they can understand what the process is going to be like and also to understand how to drive value in the business. And then the citizen's urgency has to be there. So,
Mhm.
anything can happen tomorrow. So we try to, I hate to say this, probably instill a little bit of fear. It's like
Right.
nothing is guaranteed. And, you can't guarantee that you're going to get home after your peer group meeting tonight. So, hey, you have a responsibility, right? To your customers,
Mhm.
to your employees, to your family, et cetera,
Right.
shareholders, whoever's involved, to have this plan. And so we do that. And there's countless stories we have of just amazing, both positive and negative about this
Mhm.
that can happen. And so we just keep telling those stories so they understand you can't put it off till tomorrow,
So do
as
your
well.
facilitators actually have exit planning experience then too?
Oh no, we recommend and tell them you got it. No, they do not. It's rare they
Okay.
do. Yeah, it's
Sure.
rare. Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so is there, when you talk about, like, it's almost like you're having them, let's plan with the end in mind, right? So what is your
Hmm.
exit? Same thing. If that's the theme of the group with owners of a certain age, is it owners of a certain age, or does it matter? Wondering how you differentiate that. And then, like, what are some of the tactical things that maybe you get them involved in?
Hmm. And age, it's not age related. Most now traditionally, and I think this is by design, is
Yeah.
most owners that are in a group are next gen or baby boomers, typically, right? So 40 plus, because it's taken them now, don't get me wrong, we have many members that are in their 30s, but
Mm-hmm.
it usually takes them a while to be at that level, to be in,
Mm-hmm.
one of these groups. So there's a little bit of age kind of takes care of that to some degree. But
Sure.
they need to be aware, even if they're, not around the corner and selling their business the next day, because of the end in mind, to you say. So how we incorporate that is it's one of the let me take a step back. One of the keys of moderating a group, we call them moderators. There's all kinds of different names there for them, but whoever is running that meeting, it's incumbent upon them to bring up the questions and the topics that usually do not get talked about.
Sure.
And this is just one of those big ones. And so
Right.
there's an intentionality of bringing it up as a roundtable discussion, bringing it up when a new member comes on board, that they talk about that, what their thoughts are about that. So you'll learn whether they have zero thoughts. And again, like I mentioned, it goes into their annual report that they do to the group in order to do that, and then keeping them on track. So we have, for example, there was a member who was approached by they build consoles for musicians and studios and things like that. They custom do these consoles and they sell them globally. Well, they got approached by someone that wanted to buy them, private equity firm, to kind of do a roll up of different ones. Well, of course, very excited. The business was not prepared for this, and neither was he prepared on what he wanted personally to stay in and work with them, or truly try to negotiate completely out. Well, they just drug this out. As a result, the group started to see that it was completely becoming unfocused and not focused on the business, and the business revenue tanked.
Sure.
And so the group had to kind of reel him in and have a hard conversation and go, hey, Tim, you got to get your head back in the game, because this thing may not happen and it's ruining the business. And now you need to get your strategy about, like, what do you really want for the business and what do you want for you personally? And as a result, he just stopped interacting with them. Nothing to this day has ever happened still from that. And he brought in a partner instead, and the business is back to thriving, et cetera, et cetera. But he was not clear. And this was something that occurred about 5 years ago, Julie. And that was one of our indications of, it's our job to start bringing this question up early, because other advisors weren't doing it. Now, so many business owners don't have great advisors around them, right? And if they're in a group, that is a little bit of what we take on as responsibility to go, you need to have great advisors around you.
Yes.
And on all fronts, right? And be more intentional with what you're doing with the business. So that's what we teach our moderators to do and why.
Yeah. Well, and the whole concept of fit when it comes to peer groups, right? Because I've been in peer groups before, and I know that you have a best practice in terms of guiding potential members and members who are already, part of groups within your organization to help them maintain fit or decide on fit. And so it's kind of a two-way street, right? So your moderators decide, who might be a fit for certain groups. You might be, maybe you get involved in that, or maybe you don't. And then they have to decide, right? So it's a two-way thing. It's not just like, I get to be in the club because I pay a fee.
Right.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So speak to that for a second.
Yeah. This is a passionate question to my heart, because this is another industry thing that can be done better.
Yes,
and
I agree.
that is
100%.
right fit.
Yeah.
And I understand why it's not, because finding the right, member for your group is not easy to do. Having full groups isn't easy to do, but it doesn't mean that you should make a wrong, right, decision, bringing somebody in that really isn't the right fit. But pressure happens, people need revenue, and they make bad decisions. So the flip is, anyone that is out there looking for a group, being sure that you recognize you have all the power and you need to do a lot of research. Be sure the group is a fit for you. And so park that thought for a second, because the flip of the right fit group, so many people will make that decision about revenue and employees, and that has nothing to do with right fit. And I say that because it's about experience, because revenue means something different in different industries, and so does the number of employees. And the right fit has to do with the culture and the values of the person It has to do with their experience, what they're bringing to the table, and where it is they want to go. And so the fit has to be a match between, I've had these experiences. So let's say, for example, I'm a business owner and I have had the experience of opening offices in multiple locations. And a great fit would be, is here's maybe somebody in their group who's getting ready to do that. Okay. So there's a good match. Or maybe I am thinking about bringing on a partner, and is anybody in their group already in partnerships, successfully or not, doesn't matter. So you look for where my successes are going to help somebody else in the group, and where my future challenges are, somebody else has already accomplished those. And that's kind of a fit in that way. It's not revenue, it's employees. And,
Yeah.
and it's a little personality in there, as well. So it's not easy, but if you do the job well, a true like get to know someone, it actually isn't as hard as it seems to make
Sure.
that fit.
If you've got a company that is maybe 150 employees and that owner is in a group, and then you bring someone else in who has 4 or 5 employees, there's kind of a disparity there, right? So maybe is there a little bit of that in
There
making
is,
the
and it goes back
determination?
to, and
Sure.
it goes back to
Yeah,
experience. So
sure.
if that person who only has 4 employees, that's kind of been their life the majority of the time, absolutely. If they have 4 employees, but this is their third company, and their past 2 businesses have been successful, they've exited, et cetera,
Yeah,
different
there you
story.
go. Yeah,
Mhm,
perfect. Yeah, perfect
mhm.
example. Thank you.
Yeah.
I'm glad that you clarified that, because there are lots of people out there that are those serial entrepreneurs, and I'm one of them. I mean, I don't have employees now, but I certainly did for many years.
Mhm,
Um, so I have that background, even though I
mhm.
I don't now. Everybody that works for me now is a contractor. And yeah. Um, so let's talk about how advisors can work with peer groups, or like how do the advisors fit with the members peer group?
So are you talking about the advisors of a business owner?
Yeah. Yeah,
Mhm.
do they get involved at all with the owner's peer group? I mean, do they know about it? Like, it sounds like, because your business model is different from what I'm familiar with, that this
Mhm,
would be an interesting topic for us to cover. It
mhm,
sounds really cool. I mean, I love the
mhm.
collaborative idea. So let's go there.
Yeah. So this is such a powerful question. And here's why. One of the other things we teach is that as the business owner in the group, you need to get to know their advisors. And so one of the things is that we suggest is having an advisor meeting. Now, there's
Mm.
probably a more sexy name than what I just said for what that is, but it's to coordinate. Here's the business owner. Let's bring together all your advisors. So your accountant, your attorney, your value advisor, if you have one, your insurance person, your wealth advisor, whoever is close to you in helping you run the business, right? Giving you advice.
Hmm.
And they have never met each other. They typically never know they've existed. The business owner has never done that. And so that meeting that we can facilitate is because really, of all advisors, we're sort of more of the neutral, because we're not a specific area of expertise at all. We're just
Hmm.
facilitating, right?
Right. Yeah.
So we would facilitate a meeting in order for the business owner to share their vision for the business, their exit or transition, what they desire, what their current challenges are. We want the spouse there with that meeting.
Hmm.
And it's really just an educational meeting, but it's to get everybody on the same page, because what we find is that the business owners are in the meeting. They realize, here's my challenge. I got some great feedback. They go, they implement it, but then it
Hmm.
counters some feedback that one of their advisors is giving them. And if the advisors all aren't on
Yes.
the same page, right? And you
Hmm.
see this all the time, I'm sure,
Yes.
where
Hmm.
they just are like
Now
they
what do I
recommend
do?
this, but right, because they're siloed. And so
Yeah.
by having that meeting as really brings everybody together on the table, same page,
Mm.
and it helps emphasize too the importance of the building value, exit, and all this. And
I love
it's
that.
another technique to use. Yeah.
Mhm.
And it's really helpful to get to know your clients' advisors too, and
Yeah.
how you can all come together and help in the right way and be rowing down the same. So
So
yeah,
then who coordinates this meeting then? Is it the moderator that coordinates these individual meetings with the members' advisors and they kind of rotate those, or how does that work?
yeah. So typically they end up coordinating and they coordinate
Mm-hmm.
one meeting. So it's a
Sure.
meeting with them all in the room together. So they all meet
Mm.
each other and all of this happens with the vision and all of that. And each of the advisors can introduce each other and tell what they do, etc. And it's amazing the magic that happens with that.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. That would be a good winning situation for everyone in the room if they looked at it in the right light, right?
hmm
I'm sure that there's
hmm
some advisors that are threatened by it, but you know that you can't
And
do anything
maybe that's
about
not the
that.
right advisor, right? Yeah.
Exactly.
And you do kind of
Yeah.
find that out. You kind of find
Yeah.
if, you know,
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
many business owners have had the same advisors for when they
Mhm.
started, and they may not be the right fit anymore, or they never thought of it.
All right. So one more question.
Mhm.
I have a question about, like, say, for instance, I'm an owner and I'm thinking that I'm probably going to sell either internally or externally, doesn't really matter, but I'm thinking I'm going to be done in a couple of years, maybe 2, 3 years. Is it really important for me at that point then to get involved in a peer group?
You could always be involved in a peer group.
Yeah,
But
right
let's say
answer.
yes. I am, I am getting ready
I
to
knew the
exit.
answer.
Exactly. But the answer is, in some cases it's even more important if
Yeah,
you're getting ready
right,
to exit. Um,
right.
and here's why. So like here's a first of all, you never know when exit's really going to happen. You may think it's going to be in a year and it's not. It's 3. You may think it's going to be a 3 and it's not, and it's in 2 months. I mean, right? When
That's right. Yeah.
and when any of the members that we've had, as they go through the exit, the true now, let's say they're in the process, there are so many questions, right? About
Yeah.
personally, somebody has to answer. So they're going to have, and they put their advisors around them, helping them through exit. But the one thing the group can really help is that the group really knows that member really well. And they can be there for them personally, because the
Mm-hmm.
emotional aspect behind it, as you know, is such a heavy lift.
Yeah.
And they can be there to go, I don't know if this is the right thing to do. I've negotiated this or not. So they can provide that unbiased sounding board to help that owner through the process. And then, believe it or not, Julie, so many times what happens is that the business owners stay in their group even after they've sold for some period of time. So even though
That
they
would make
don't own the
sense to me.
business,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, right? And it's
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
if there's a transition still, and they have
Yeah.
so much to offer still.
Well,
I
it's like
talked
their
about the
tribe, right?
experience.
Yeah.
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 Mhm.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yep.
Very
And the
cool.
group wants them there, and the
Right.
group learns so much from the person of how they've gone through it. There's one group today where somebody's still been in the group 10 years, they sold.
Mm.
They're kind of a mentor and a emeritus, member,
Of
but
course. Of course. Yeah.
it's helpful to them in their transition. I mean, we had one member who was like, yeah, I'm gonna get an RV and I'm gonna go over, you hear these, we're in the country after I sell. That's what my wife and I are gonna do. And the group said, John, have you talked to your wife about this? Oh, she's going to be on board. She's going to be on board. They're like, here's your action this month. You're going to go home and have this conversation with your wife right next month and let us know how it went. And you know what that meant, right? He comes back the next month and everybody couldn't wait. John, what was your conversation like? And he was like, oh man, he said, no way. He goes, you can go have that RV. You're going to be in it by yourself. I'm flying. I'll meet you there. He's like, yeah, that's not my plan now.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. We had to do a paradigm shift.
That's what we did. That's what we did. So, yeah.
Yeah. That's all right, though. That's all right. I mean, I think it's good to that they're still involved in the groups because that gives them a sense of relevancy, and they've got a lot of expertise that they can still share. And that's another really good option for owners when they're thinking about what's next for me. Just
Mhm.
staying involved in a peer group. So, gosh, there's so many more things that we could cover and more stories that you could share, Tina, but we've run out of time. So I'm just gonna have you back on the show again. That's all.
Well, always, always
Yeah.
very fun to talk to
Yeah.
you, and I appreciate it.
Always. Yeah, for sure. Thank you so much for being with us. And thank you to our listeners as well for sharing this episode, for listening, for commenting. Let us know what you thought and let us know what you'd like to hear in the rest of 2025. We've got a lot of topic openings. And so we'd love to have your ideas. And please all join us again next time.